The last thing I expected that rainy Tuesday afternoon was to hear my ex-girlfriend's mother whisper the words that would change my life forever. What about me? I had just finished repairing her broken-down car, and I was already walking toward the door, determined never to step into that house again. I thought I was helping an old woman with a simple mechanical problem. I didn't know she had been carrying a secret for 3 years, a secret connected to the reason her daughter and I had broken apart. Before we begin, if stories about second chances, unexpected kindness, and people finding their way back to each other touch your heart, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Sometimes, one small act of kindness can reopen a door we thought life had permanently closed. My name is Daniel, and 3 years earlier, I had been deeply in love with a woman named Emily. We had planned everything together. We talked about a small house, weekend breakfasts, traveling somewhere neither of us had ever been, and growing old without becoming strangers. Emily's mother, Margaret, had treated me like a son. She would call me whenever something around the house broke, and I was always happy to help. But then, without warning, Emily ended our relationship. She told me she needed a different life and that our relationship had become too complicated. I begged her to explain, but she refused. Within weeks, she moved away, changed her number, and disappeared from my life. The hardest part wasn't losing Emily. It was losing the family I thought I had gained. Margaret stopped calling too. I assumed she was angry with me, or perhaps Emily had told her something terrible about me. So I accepted the silence. I focused on work, saved money, and tried to rebuild myself. Eventually, I learned to wake up without checking my phone for Emily's name. I learned to eat dinner alone without feeling like something was missing. I even convinced myself that I had stopped caring. Then, on that rainy Tuesday, my phone rang. It was Margaret. Her voice sounded older than I remembered. She said her car had stopped in the middle of the road and the repair shop wanted more money than she could afford. She remembered that I used to work on cars and asked if I could take a look. For several seconds, I said nothing. Every memory I had buried came rushing back. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to protect the fragile peace I had built. But then I remembered the woman who had once treated me like family. I drove to her house. The old blue sedan sat beneath a dripping tree, its hood raised. Margaret stood beside it wearing a thin sweater despite the cold rain. When she saw me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't understand. She looked relieved, but also frightened. I simply nodded and began checking the engine. The problem was worse than I expected. A damaged fuel component had caused the engine to fail, and several smaller issues had been ignored for months. I spent nearly 2 hours working beneath the hood while rain soaked my clothes. Margaret stayed nearby, watching silently. She tried several times to say something, but each time she stopped herself. When the engine finally turned over, the familiar sound made both of us smile. Margaret reached for her purse and asked how much she owed me. I shook my head. She insisted, but I told her the repair was my gift. She looked at me for a long moment and quietly thanked me. I started walking toward my car. That was when she said it. What about me? I stopped. I turned around slowly. Margaret was standing in the doorway, tears running down her face. She told me she hadn't meant to ask about money, the car, or anything practical. She meant to ask what happened to the relationship between us. She told me that after Emily left, she had wanted to call me hundreds of times, but Emily had forbidden her from doing so. Then Margaret revealed something I had never known. Emily hadn't left because she stopped loving me. She had left because she believed I was going to lose everything because of her. Margaret explained that Emily had discovered she had a serious heart condition shortly before our planned engagement. She was terrified that if she told me, I would sacrifice my future to take care of her. She had watched her own father spend years caring for a sick relative, and she believed love eventually turned into exhaustion and resentment. So she convinced herself that breaking my heart was kinder than letting me become trapped in her illness. I felt the world become strangely quiet. All those years, I had believed I wasn't enough. Emily had believed she wasn't worth staying for. And Margaret had been caught between us, carrying the truth alone. I asked where Emily was now. Margaret wiped her tears and told me Emily had undergone treatment. She was doing better, but she still lived with fear. She had recently returned to the city but was too ashamed to contact me. I should have been angry. Instead, I felt something inside me break open. Not because I suddenly forgot the pain, but because I finally understood it. That evening, Margaret handed me a small envelope. Inside was a letter Emily had written 3 years earlier but never sent. I read it inside my car while rain tapped against the windshield. Emily wrote that she loved me more than anything, but she was afraid that one day I would look at her and regret choosing her. She said she would rather have me hate her than watch me sacrifice my dreams for someone who might become sick again. For 3 years, I had blamed myself for losing her. For 3 years, she had blamed herself for letting me go. The next morning, I found Emily sitting alone on a bench outside a small neighborhood cafe. She looked different. Older. Softer. But when she lifted her eyes and saw me, I recognized the woman I had loved immediately. We didn't rush toward each other. We didn't pretend nothing had happened. We simply sat together. She apologized. I told her she had hurt me. She admitted she had been afraid. I admitted that I had spent years believing she never loved me. Then she started crying. She said she never stopped. I realized something that day. Sometimes people don't leave because they don't love us. Sometimes they leave because fear convinces them that disappearing is the only way to protect the person they love. It doesn't make the pain disappear, and it doesn't erase the mistakes. But understanding can sometimes transform anger into forgiveness. Emily and I didn't promise each other a perfect future. We promised something more realistic, honesty. If we were going to try again, we would never make decisions for each other. We would face difficult days together instead of running from them. Months later, Margaret's car was still running perfectly. Emily and I had slowly rebuilt our relationship, one honest conversation at a time. And Margaret would sometimes tease us about the rainy afternoon when an old car broke down and somehow brought 3 broken hearts back together. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes that some doors can never be reopened, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness for more stories about love, forgiveness, kindness, and second chances. And before we end, I want you to answer one question in the comments. Do you believe people deserve a second chance when fear, not lack of love, caused them to walk away? Because sometimes the person we think abandoned us was actually fighting a battle we knew nothing about. Sometimes an old car, a rainy afternoon, and one simple act of kindness can uncover the truth that years of silence tried to hide. And sometimes, the greatest second chance isn't about returning to the past. It's about finally becoming brave enough to build a better future together.